Welcome guys, how are you? You're with the Market Sniper. This is your update for day 5. We're the morning of day 6 now. And we're at a lodge we've stayed for 2 days. This is the Orange River. It's the biggest river in South Africa, and actually, in fact, it's very interesting. It starts at a place called Montesource, which is a high point in the Drakensberg Mountains, which is very close to the KwaZulu-Natal and Indian Ocean. And the reason why this geography is interesting is because at the same Montesource, the Tugela River starts and flows the other way, the very short distance, about straight line 300 kilometers to the Indian Ocean. And the Orange on that same watershed fell the other way. So it actually crosses the entire of Africa, because the Drakensberg is very close to the Indian Ocean. In fact, the famous Comrades Marathon runs you from Pietermaritzburg to Durban on the coast. And when you're at Maritzburg, you're not too far from the main berg, the Drakensberg. So that's an 89 kilometer ultra marathon, where, incidentally, funny that I just come across that, they had more deaths and more people in the special medical tent in that 1 year than they did in all the other years leading up to it since the race was run from the 50s sometime. So it makes you wonder about that medicine that people have been taking. We'll come back to that in a little bit. But anyway, back to the river and soon to the markets. The key point I'm going to be telling you about, which involves the dollar dominance. So we're going to talk about dollar dominance today. We're going to touch on the Moderna CEO's recent admission, and we're going to talk about rivers. So this river actually crosses the whole way across Africa, the southern Africa, which is going through this desert. And in actual fact, where I'm sitting right now was underwater this year by about a meter. And just to prove it to you, I will walk. You can see the block paving is a little bit wavy. I will walk to a mark which will show you how high it was and at what date it was. There you'll see on the wall flood level 2601.22, 3,500 cubic meters a second. So that was around a meter underwater, this river. So you get feast and famine. This is the world. And actually this is going to be a bit the theme, because everybody tells you there's a scarcity of water. And sometimes you get feast, water level up there. None of this furniture was here, just moved higher up. A lot of damage done. You can actually see that yellow fever tree didn't survive the beginning of the year. It came down. All of these were submerged right up to there. So that is the feast, the excessive feast that desert areas tend to get. When it floods properly. And then famine comes. I mean, it wasn't too long ago, I think it was 2017, the Western Cape had all sorts of water restrictions on it. This is incredible because it's sided on all the way around the Atlantic and the Indian Oceans. So there's a biblical reference here. You will have 7 years of feast, and then you'll have 7 years of famine. And with all these extreme booms, if you think about the boomer generation particularly, they've had nothing but pumpermentals in dot-com stocks. Then they had property market. Then they had second wave tech and Bitcoin. If you didn't build your wealth through that period and make use of the 7 years of feast, you didn't store in the silos. For those that are not biblically aware, the story goes you will have 7 years of feast and 7 years of famine, and the thing to do was to store in silos for the 7 years of famine. Don't just gorge and expend to your new level of wealth like it's a new normal. This is it. Everybody thinks that what they're currently experiencing now is what they will continue to experience. It's the to a varying degree. It's this hypernormality mentality. What you currently are is what you currently will be, and that the circumstances could never become extremely bad or extremely good. In your darkest hour, you have to remember you often get gifts And in your gorging, easy life hours, there's often a setup for a fall. And unfortunately, many people have not recognized that the 7 years, the 7 fat years, and it's not actually 7 years, it's been even longer than that. It's been a 40-year bond and equity bull market pumped by central banking cartels. So the 40 years is the 7 years, and those who haven't prepared are going to suffer. Now, there is actually more opportunity even in crashing markets for, if you haven't done all that you should for wealth building, you actually can build wealth in the famine. And that's to be inverse famine. That means you've got to short everything that's got to go down. You've had the 40-year bond bull market, you've had the 40-year equity bull market, you've had all of these coming at you. And actually, if you still haven't made wealth, you can make wealth in the crash, because that wealth comes exceedingly quickly. And that's the short everything. We started with a silly joke line, you're going to get reamed. So it's the biggest short of your life coming. And this will make Michael Burry's Big Short look like small fry in terms of debt revaluation. I did tweet out a number of key macro drivers on our Twitter handle. Follow that. Also, by the way, book a call on themarketsniper.com if you want to make sure you build the maximum wealth out of this situation that we're in, because actually you can quite quickly, and I don't like the sizzle of fast money, generally fast in, fast out, slow dough is your friend, but in shorting it comes a lot faster. You just have to go get a 40-year chart of the bond markets and look how that thing's fallen since our call in August 2020 on the TLT, 30 years, 10 years, whatever you like, and that's on the American debt. The British debt is falling harder, faster, etc., etc. And in the Japanese case, where they're refusing to allow it to fall, their currency has squirted harder, faster, and more on that on a second. So, you know, no one would have guessed I would be underwater by a meter, sitting right here with that river right down there. But it happened, and it happened this year. That was your feast. No one could guess that this could get a whole bunch lower in level as well. But I'll tell you something when it comes to water. There is absolutely no scarcity of water, but they're going to keep in the pursuit of their agenda of saying too many people on the planet. We have a scarcity of water, yada, 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 and there's scarcity of this. There's an abundance of everything, and this water level proves it. I'm sitting in a desert. My face is burnt. I'm getting heat exhausted every day. I'm riding in hot sand. It was 31 degrees at 9:30 in the morning yesterday. We tapped out at about 37, 38. And we did some really technical rocky stuff. It was exhausting, but great fun and very testing. So what you got to realize is there is always abundance in the long run, but there's just bad planning. There's just bad planning and not doing the right things in the right times. And I don't want to revert to my horses for courses. Sometimes the best horse on this course is a donkey, because we've passed a lot of desert donkeys and racehorses wouldn't survive out here. But again, this is a 7 years of feast, 7 years of famine. And if you've not played the 7 years of feast as well as you should have, you haven't got as full silos, and you aren't what you would consider independently financially free, you still have another chance. This is the way the market loves you. And the market loves you in the way that the USD dominance is going to continue. And I've given in premium to my premium members a particular currency that I particularly enjoy being short of against the dollar, an early alert that they can now break in. For those that have joined recently, for those that are slightly undersized, and I've got a much bigger account because I've been in it from the beginning. So to be clear, I was in the 1100s, my first entries on the Korean won. It's at about 14.25 at the moment. And that one will have a melt up that possibly the yen won't have. The yen will be more consistently going up. The Korean won will have a surge. So it sits in between the Hong Kong dollar and the yen in terms of the Asian currencies. And as I say, we've given levels for entries on that trade. USD dollar dominance is about to come back, particularly on that pair, but it's going to be across the board. And I'm expecting the yen to lose the 150 mark and go well through. So don't forget, we are expecting 250 and possibly more on a blow off. This is a chronic devaluation in the currency, guys. A chronic devaluation in the currency. So remember, that river can go higher, it can go a lot lower. There are real opportunities right now. If you want to build wealth in the big short season, you can achieve in 6 months what normally would have taken you 4 or 5 years of bull market in .com, property, etc., to achieve. But this is also getting close to the last chance saloon. People who don't build wealth in the big short era, there's no more feasting where you're going to be able to stash silos. If you aren't playing the other side and maximizing, you could indeed end up exactly where you are, and you're going to be staring at a 7-year famine. And let's be clear, the 7-year famine was actually a 40-year bull market, to no doubt be followed by a 40-year repression where equities grossly underperform. You have to be an unbelievable stock picker to get the odd one or two. And the long opportunities, the opportunities to make money on the long side, are going to be potentially very, very short and rare. So this is a call to arms. Feast and famine. 7 years, good. Did you save up enough for your 7 years? Bad. If you're not quite happy with that level, you have to maximize this shorting period, because those central banks won't be able to hold up those assets forever. That should be going down, and you could be on the damn wall bursting side of that makes the gains. But you need entry levels. I mean, I've told many of you what we're short, but you could go in today and you could be stopped out tomorrow. You need entry levels, you need tight stops, and you need to do it in a chance where you're less likely to get stopped out, and that's where HVF method comes in. And that's why we're saying the gift is there for those that want to load up in one of those Asian pairs that I've mentioned, and we've given the levels to our premium guys for the high likelihood. And even still, you can tap 2 or 3 times and get short time frame stopped for small amount losses before the third one holds, and then you're up and away, and you'll probably end up holding that for the entire blow off. And there is a dollar dominance blow off coming. So one other small news piece, CEO of Moderna admits that COVID is very much like a variety of seasonal flu, and that only the most vulnerable should be jabbed. Oh, okay. So now that you've sold the whole world jabs, and it was all great for your profits and everything, we're down to just talking about a seasonal flu, a strand of seasonal flu that only the most vulnerable should have been pushed to have. Isn't that interesting? After various proofs of the fact that they haven't testing, have you seen how these liars are being backed off? How the lie gets around the world with the political force of corrupted presidents. Boris Johnson, I've seen the clips of how belligerent he was, and you anti-vaxxers, this and this. Flippin' Biden, Fauci, Gates, all these criminals. Tony freaking Blair, the lying piece of dog turd, World Economic Forum, dog shite, warmongering garbage. These guys need to face real adverse consequences for what they have done. And the degree that they try to pressure all of us. I stood alone for a while. I felt really alone. I had to be truly strong. I had to try shore other people up. Everyone else was saying, but I might lose my job and I'm going to have to do it, and all of this. I was saying, no, don't you do it. I had to fight. I had to try and encourage. I had to cajole, and I was being castigated everywhere. And many others like me, including many of you watching this. But now we see the great lie. Now they've been backed off, and now you see the emperor has no clothes but deception. They are deception artists. The sole fascination for me has always got to be what is the real truth and facts of the matter. And that's why I chart, because the money can't lie. What the money does are the footprints in the sand. That's why I'm a technical chartist. I'm not tempted by narration and news from Bloomberg, Reuters, and all the other fuckhead deceivers. I'm sick to the back teeth of their manipulation. I often trade contrary to them. Sometimes I might be with them. I decide entirely technically, and that is our game. We are pursuers of the truth. The best and the closest to the hard factual evidence is all that I want, and we stood tough, and we stood firm, and it's not a victory until we get justice against these liars, deceivers, and never ever, if you trusted them, trust them again, please. Okay, on that good note, this is your update for tour day 5. The USD dominance will reassert in time against the yen. I'm expecting the 150 to fall. I'm expecting the Korean won to reignite. I'm expecting the pressure to continue to build on the Hong Kong dollar. So as I make more and more profits in the FX markets, I will also continue, actually, because I already have quite a reasonable position. I will already continue to stack USD, Hong Kong dollar longs. You want more details on how, where, when stops? You can come and learn HVF method with us, so that you pick up the skill, you get the information you need, and you pick up the skill at the same time. You can grab a fish, or you can learn to fish. Okay, from the place that was flooded 9 months ago, that I would be a meter underwater, to the desert that we'll be driving through. You've got to decide, how are you set for feast and famine season. Okay, till the next time, give us a like, give us a share. We greatly appreciate your support and shares. And thank you to many of you that have been shouting us out for being on the money, on the macro, in the Twitter space, and in other social medias. We appreciate it. Getting some recognition and social proof is good for us, expanding our message to other people and keeping them out of these death traps and these lies that the CEOs of Moderna and Pfizer throw down, and trying to stay close to the truth of how this whole thing breaks down, and building wealth in reset season. That is our mantra, how to build wealth in reset season, and you are with us. Until the next time, enjoy your day. Bye for now.